I bet even a Disney expert doesn't know all these secrets at Disney's Hollywood Studios. Hey there, Man Fam, and welcome to another episode of our Secret Series, the series where I show you all of the hidden details, Easter eggs, and little Imagineering secrets that make these parks so special. Today, we are at Disney's Hollywood Studios, the Hollywood that never was and always will be, so I can share you some of my favorite of those little details, little things to notice that just completely immerse you in the story of this park. Now, we've already done one episode of this series here where I focused on the most popular rides. So cool things to look for on Rise of the Resistance or Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, Slinky Dog Dash. Today's video is going to focus on the park itself. So things you're probably breezing right past as you run down Sunset Boulevard to Rope Drop Rock and Roller Coaster. I hope you're ready. I hope you're excited. I love doing these videos. So lights, camera, action, on with the show. Welcome into Disney's Hollywood Studios, friends. Walt Disney World's third park. It opened up on May 1st, 1989, 35th anniversary, right around the time this video is coming out. Kind of a fun fact for me, one of the very first media events I ever did when I got into this industry was the 30th anniversary. So look how far we've come in just a few short years. But of course, when you enter Hollywood Studios, previously MGM Studios, you enter on Hollywood Boulevard. That is this main street that takes you down to the Grauman's Chinese Theater. And it's probably not a surprise to you that a lot of things on this street are modeled after actual Los Angeles, actual Hollywood, starting with this Crossroads of the World sign right here in the middle of the park. Now, this is a cute little souvenir shop where you can grab ears and sunglasses, hats, maps, but also, I think most notably, is the globe up top with the Mickey on top of it. This is modeled after the actual Crossroads of the World, which was the first outdoor shopping mall in the United States located in the real Hollywood. The main building of the shopping mall, shaped like an ocean liner, and then beyond that you had a bunch of different kiosks and things, and if you look at the real one, it looks almost exactly like this one. But of course, the one in Walt Disney World has a Mickey up on top because, well, it all started with a mouse. But more importantly, you may notice that there's not a lightning rod on top of Crossroads of the World the way there are lightning rods on top of all these other buildings. Central Florida is the lightning capital of the world, so it's important that all of these buildings are grounded. So why doesn't Crossroads of the World have one up there? Well, the answer's simple. Mickey's ear, his right ear up at the top there, it's a lightning rod. That's why it's kind of peeked up towards the sky. Mickey is protecting all of us from a lightning strike. Now to the left of Crossroads of the World, you've got Sid Cahuenga's one-of-a-kind Tinseltown photos. And this is a cool Easter egg for a few reasons. First of all, Sid Cahuenga is the combination of two famous Hollywood legends. Sid Grauman, the Sid part of this name, is of the Grauman's Chinese Theater, the real Chinese theater in Hollywood where many of movie premiere has taken place, and the one that the Chinese theater here is modeled after. Again, that's Sid Grauman. Cahuenga, on the other hand, is a very famous road and pass in Hollywood, so they slammed those two names together to make Sid Cahuenga's. The cool thing about the building, though, is it's designed after the Janes House, which is the oldest residential house in Hollywood. It was built in 1903. It had many different purposes throughout the years, including a school. It's currently a speakeasy, but when a lot of houses were being sold to real estate moguls in Hollywood to turn them into film lots or shopping malls, the owners refused of the Janes House. They refused to sell at their own detriment because they could have gotten a lot of money for it, and they just built up things like shopping malls around it. So you can still, again, go to this house today. You can go to the bar. It's called No Vacancy. I'm kind of trying to go on my next Hollywood visit. We'll see if I can get in. It seems like a steep reservation situation. Also, just like a little piece of my own personal history with this building, it's currently the PhotoPass building, but when My Disney Experience and Magic Bands first rolled out, it was the service center for those, and I was a guest relations cast member at the time. So in these little TVs in the front, they had iPad tablets, and we could help guests using like FastPass Plus and all these services that I just rolled out. And I'm actually in some promotional photos that Disney used, I think just internally probably, helping some guests use the My Disney Experience. And if you want to know real behind the scenes, in this photo we're laughing because we are looking at the food and wine page and it was listing all the food and wine artists, and it would say like Boyz II Men known for the song End of the Road, and I was like, look at Hanson's and look what song they're known for, and it was not Mbop, and I was like, the audacity of Hanson to list anything other than Mbop is hilarious to me. So that's what this used to be, but now it's PhotoPass Center and there's some cool stuff inside, so let's go in. Is anyone else getting the big dog from Friends that Chandler and Joey own when they look at this, or just me? So inside Sid's, it used to actually be an antique shop, and you could buy the things that you saw, or they had some really cool things on display. I remember growing up, I think like in my teen years, they actually had Bert's jacket from Jolly Holiday and Mary Poppins in here on display behind a case. But at the time, you could buy some of the things you saw. So like, here is a beach party poster signed by Annette Funicello and Frankie Avalon. Like, you could have bought this. Right here, a Birds poster signed by Tippi Hedren, you could have bought this. Now it's just on display and just for viewing, but I feel like no one comes in here to look at some of this cool stuff. This art is autographed by original voices of Winnie the Pooh characters. You've got the original princess voices right here. This picture is signed by Mary Costa, who is Princess Aurora, Paige O'Hara, who was Belle, and Eileen Woods, who is Cinderella. Like, when else are you gonna see those autographs? Now on to probably my favorite fun fact of this whole video. We are looking at Mickey's of Hollywood right here, which is this big merch shop on the left-hand side of Hollywood Boulevard. Inside you can find, as the awning suggests, apparel with appeal. But what if I told you Mickey's of Hollywood is named after and themed after one of the oldest lingerie shops in the United States? That's right, Mickey's of Hollywood, themed to Frederick's of Hollywood. I kind of feel like you knew that in your brain, but you didn't know that in your brain. But no, for real, this looks like the Los Angeles store of Frederick's of Hollywood, which started in New York City in 1946 and moved to Los Angeles in 1947. It was started by and named after the company owner Frederick Mellinger, who invented many things, including the push-up bra and edible panties. And it was the largest lingerie store in the United States until the 1980s, when it was overtaken by a certain secret. And if you look at their iconic store in Los Angeles, you can definitely see that this store was modeled after it. And I just love the idea that, like, one of the first things that you see when you come into a Disney park is modeled after a lingerie store. And it also kind of gives the tagline apparel with appeal a whole new meaning. Now, we're not going to walk building by building down Hollywood Boulevard, but do know that pretty much every building on this street is modeled after a famous building in Hollywood. Whether it be the Darkroom or the Five and Dime, they're modeled after either the architecture style or some kind of historic building in Los Angeles. And I just love that, because while all of us are busy dashing to Slinky Dog, we're not really paying attention to the architecture on the main street of the park. And it is certainly different than what you see when you're walking into Animal Kingdom or Magic Kingdom, and that's because it's designed after those real places. One more store I do want to specifically point out, though, is Adrian and Edith's Head to Toe. This used to be one of the ear shops where you could pick up ear headbands or ear hats and get the custom embroidery. Now it's just another merchandise shop, but its name pays tribute to two of Hollywood's legend costume designers. Because if you look at the tagline, it's Adrian and Edith's Head to Toe, costumes of the stars. Now, Adrian was just Adrian. He was like Cher, he was like Madonna, he just went by Adrian, and he designed costumes for literally hundreds of MGM pictures, most notably a little movie called The Wizard of Oz, known throughout Hollywood history as one of the greatest costume designers of all time. Edith is for Edith Head, which is actually funny because it's Edith's Head, but it would be Edith Head is her full name. She's basically Edna Mode, and when I say that, I mean that seriously. She was the inspiration from Edna Mode. Just look at this side by side. You can't even see a difference, can you? Edith Head was nominated for 35 Oscars for Best Costuming Design, and she won 8 of them, making her the most awarded costume designer of all time. No one has won more Oscars than her. Some of her Oscar wins include films such as Roman Holiday, The Sting, and All About Eve. And I just love that we have this little nod to them right here on Hollywood, because truly, what's a movie without good costume design? I love to point out this statue as well. His name is the Cameraman, and he joined the park in 1995. But what's fun about this statue is if you come look right here at the plaque, you're going to see the dedication of the park May 1st, 1989 from then CEO Michael Eisner. The world you have entered was created by the Walt Disney Company and is dedicated to Hollywood, not a place on the map, but a state of mind that exists wherever people dream and wonder and imagine, a place where illusion and reality are fused by technological magic. We welcome you to a Hollywood that never was and always will be. But what I love about this plaque is the logo. I'm sure many of you know that this park did not open as Disney's Hollywood Studios. It opened as Disney MGM Studios, a partnership between the Walt Disney Company and MGM. However, that changed in 2008 when MGM decided not to renew their license and they officially changed the park name. And this is, to my knowledge, the only place or one of the only places that you can see the original logo. Everywhere else, they've swapped it to Hollywood Studios, but as someone who grew up coming to MGM, I think it's kind of fun that there's a little nod right there. And speaking of filmmaking, did you know that this isn't just a theme park, and this was at one time an actual working film studio? Many TV shows shot segments or episodes here, including The Golden Girls. Additionally, back in some buildings that guests don't have access to, called feature animation, they actually animated several fan favorite Disney movies, including Brother Bear, Lilo and Stitch, and my favorite princess movie, Mulan. Now, as our last stop on Hollywood Boulevard, we find ourselves outside the Chinese Theater, again themed to the one in Hollywood, the Grauman's Chinese Theater. And just like the one in California, we are looking at handprints of famous folks. A little bit different than the one in California, you do have some famous Disney folks here that have put their hands or feet on the ground, like Mickey Mouse. Although Mickey Mouse does have a star on the Walk of Fame. But there is one set of handprints I'm looking for in particular. Audrey Hepburn, she added her handprints on April 29th, 1989, just a few days before the park officially opened to the public. And the reason that Audrey Hepburn's handprints are important is because this is the only place you can see them. That's right, as famous and iconic as Audrey Hepburn is, her handprints are not outside the Grauman's Chinese Theater in California. Apparently it was an oversight and they never asked her to do it. So when Disney asked her to do it here, she burst into tears and was incredibly honored, happily laid her handprints here. Upon hearing this, the Grauman's Chinese Theater apologized and offered for her to lay her hands there, and she said no. Considering, unfortunately, Miss Hepburn has passed away, this is now the only place that you can see her handprints. Look, we're hand twins. My nails are longer than hers, but I think we have the same size hands. It's fate. I encourage all of you to find your hand twin next time you're here. Could be surprising. Perhaps it's Mickey Mouse. Perhaps it's R2-D2. Perhaps it's Hulk Hogan, Pee Wee Herman. You never know. Our next stop is inside Walt Disney Presents. This is a small museum dedicated to the life and times of who else? Walter Elias Disney, the man who made all this magic possible. And I love this. I feel like it's such an underrated experience here in Hollywood Studios. I feel like not enough people cherish Walt and the original creators of all this magic. And it's a great break from the heat, and you get to air conditioning. And there's a fun little movie at the end all about Walt Disney and what he made, narrated by Julie Andrews. So who doesn't want to see that? A couple things to point out in here. First of all, I saw this online, and I confirmed it's true. There is a historian quiz. If you fill out this quiz, you can bring it to the cast members at the end and get a prize. And I'm not going to give you all the answers, but if you don't know them off the top of your head, don't Google them. Go through the exhibit, and you'll be able to find all the answers. The cast member at the front told me to give it to the cast member at the theater, and she would give me my prize. So we're going to do that along the way. I'm also going to point out a few cool things, starting with, does it feel like anything's missing from Walt's hand right here? Particularly right here. Does it look a little blurry? If you're a Disney fan, a Disney historian, then you may know that Walt Disney was a very heavy smoker. Unfortunately, Walt actually passed away from lung cancer, so don't smoke, kids. It's literally terrible for you. But a lot of photos with Walt Disney, he had a cigarette in his hands and he would point like this and he would do things. And a lot of people say that that's where the Disney point came from, because cast members, when they're gesturing, are taught to point with two fingers instead of just one. Now, I was a cast member and we were always taught that it's rude to point with one finger in a lot of cultures because you're like pointing at someone. So you point with two instead because it creates more of a little gesture. But there's like an urban legend that it's because Walt always pointed with two fingers because there was a fat cigarette in there. But a lot of these pictures that you're going to see throughout this exhibit, if you Google them and find the real image, you get what I'm saying. Which, no shade, I fully understand why they want to Photoshop that out. It was the 40s, 50s, 60s. Times are a lot different now. Everybody smoked back then. So, but I just, something to notice. Something a little interesting that caught my eye one time. Now, I highly encourage you to go through this whole exhibit because it's absolutely fascinating. But a couple of my favorite things. Here you've got one of the desks from Walt's childhood home in Marceline, Missouri. And notice that he had etched in WD into the desk. And actually, here's a picture of Walt as an adult looking at the desk. I love this model. This is one of the newer editions, but this is what Disneyland looked like when it opened with the original 5 lands: Main Street USA, Adventureland, Frontierland, Fantasyland, and Tomorrowland. Isn't that fabulous? Probably my favorite thing in this exhibit, though, is this kind of deconstructed Abraham Lincoln, which is from the 64-65 New York's World's Fair with Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, which you can still see in full out at Disneyland. Walt Disney loved the American presidents in American history, and Abraham Lincoln was his favorite. And when they created Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln for the World's Fair, people were so amazed by the technology. They did not believe it was a robot. They literally were throwing pennies, ironically, at it to see if it would flinch. And I love that you get to see the inner workings of an audio animatronic here and the original control system for it. And just think of all the amazing animatronics we've had since then. I mean, the World's Fair was the premiere of human audio animatronics between this and the Carousel of Progress, but since then we've gotten the Shaman of Song, Hondo Ohnaka, the Stuntronic Spider-Man. You can thank Abe for this. And then the other thing I love about this exhibit is they swap out the costumes in the end based on kind of like popular movies or popular television. So you can see costumes from more current things, like here are costumes from the live-action Little Mermaid. And here's a lot of costumes and a lot of exhibit about Percy Jackson on the Olympians, which is currently on Disney+. For a while, they had The Descendants in here. They had Pirates of the Caribbean, so you kind of never know what you're going to find. I personally love this costume from Mr. D, worn by the one, the only, Dennis Feinstein. I just love that exhibit. I think it's so important to learn a little bit about the history and understand the story of Walt. And like so much technology comes from the Walt Disney Company. Everything from surround sound to the multiplane camera, that all started with Walt. So it's really cool to go in there. And yes, the internet rumors are true. You can in fact become a Walt Disney historian. You have to fill out the little quiz with answers you find throughout the exhibit and give it to the cast member at the end. They gave me this little certificate and I got to sign a book. I feel very honored and very special. I feel like my whole life is leading me to this moment. Well, hey, howdy, hey, friends. We've made it to Toy Story Land, one of the later additions to this park and home to some of the most popular attractions and beloved characters, including my favorite character of all time, Mr. Buzz Lightyear. I just love this land so much. You're supposed to be in Andy's backyard. Andy has set up all of this with all of his different toys. So just looking around and seeing the Connects and all of his different cardboard boxes and all of his different string lights, it's so cute. And you'll see the detail throughout. Like, look at that. They've got Scotch tape on those Christmas lights up there. It's just adorable. And if you think it's cute now, I cannot encourage you enough to come at night because it's absolutely phenomenal. But in addition to just the cute things everywhere, like look, he's got a pencil right here with the eraser on top. Anyone else having elementary school flashbacks? And the popsicle stick mentions, I'm gonna point out a few like specific details to look for. First up, if you know anything about the history of Pixar, then you may know that the alphanumeric chain of A113 has particular importance because that was the classroom number at Cal Arts that a lot of Pixar animators studied at. So Pixar tends to hide A113 in every single one of their movies, and of course in a Pixar-themed land, they're gonna hide it there as well. Come right here outside of Woody's Lunchbox, take a look at this little enclosed area that's got 2 blocks as well as 3 dominoes. You've got your A on the first block right here. This block right here, look at the colors only. You've got 1 on this side, and then come around on the other side as well. You've got the other 1, and then to get your 3, you're gonna look at your dominoes. This domino right here has 2 on it. The white domino in the middle has nothing on it, but the black domino on the left has 1 on it. 1 plus 2 is 3 by my math. So you've got your hidden A113. You're inside Woody's Lunchbox. This is the quick service restaurant here in the land that serves the famous tachos and the lunchbox tarts. You're gonna see that Andy set up his lunchbox and his thermos to make up the main area for the restaurant. And if you look around, you're gonna see a bunch more cute details. Like, I love that Andy's using bendy straws and green army and blocks and Christmas lights, but my favorite detail is right here at this booth, kind of to the left of the main ordering station. You can see that the base of it is made out of Baby Bell cheeses, who coincidentally sponsors this restaurant, but the table of it is made out of a note from his mom. You're my favorite deputy. Love, Mom. We love that. Moms are the best. Another of my favorite duties is right here at the restrooms, which seems a little weird, but I promise it's adorable. For starters, you've got blocks that say girls and boys holding up the kind of column for it here to designate which bathroom is which. You've also got a W tile from Scrabble indicating that this is the water fountain. But most adorably, you've got the cooties and the box from the game of Cootie right outside here, which I remember playing as a kid, but you get it because it's the bathroom, so there's cooties in there. It's so cute, I want to throw up a little bit. Now outside Alien Swirling Saucers, you've got the ever amazing Buzz Lightyear right here. But if you look past him a little bit, you're if you look up, gonna see his box that he comes in. And below that, you've got one of the laser guns from Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters, the Disneyland version of Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger spin. And it's gigantic because remember, when you're in Andy's backyard, you're supposed to be the size of a toy, which is why everything is so big. Additionally, guarding the entrance to Alien Swirling Saucers, you may recognize those from the first movie because those are the Pizza Planet guards. Couple more things to look for in the queue. There is a hidden Mickey amongst the buttons at docking control if you're in the standby queue. Additionally, you're going to see that they're working on bays 1 and bays 13, which would be 113. And you could presume that where it says Airlock Alpha, that's your A. Airlock Alpha, Bay 1 and Bay 13? You think that's another A113 joke? I'm a little torn, so I want to hear what y'all think. I think it's suspicious to have 113 together, but I am a little suspicious of Airlock Alpha being on the next slide. From one spas to the next, we have made it into the galaxy far, far away. Welcome, friends, to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, aka Star Wars Land. Now, there's tons and tons of hidden Star Wars details, a lot of which I got into in the most popular ride secrets, where I took you through Rise of the Resistance and Smuggler's Run, but we're going to talk about, again, some of the details to look for in the land in general. First things first, I'm pretty sure I've talked about this multiple times before, but it is one of my favorite details in the land, and that is if you look at any of the trash cans, they're going to have the same number on them, 3263827. If you are a diehard Star Wars fan, you probably know that that is the trash compactor number that Luke shouts out to C-3PO in A New Hope when he, Leia, and Han are about to get squished. Another of my favorite details in a lot of Disney parks is to look at the ground. They often embed little things in the ground, or you're going to see footprints or animal tracks. And all over Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, you're going to see different animal tracks, likely from different Star Wars creatures, such as banthas or gun-guns. But if you look specifically here over by Droid Depot, you are going to see some droid tracks. These are the droids you're looking for, friends, because you've got C-3PO's tracks as well as R2-D2's tracks. And R2-D2's tracks, they got the original R2-D2 made for the first movie in 1977, made a copy of the bottom of his foot, and then wheeled him around on a little chassis so that he could make the Droid Depot tracks right here. And I feel like I'm not even a Star Wars nerd, and I think that is so, so cool. Also, if you come inside Droid Depot, there's tons of different droid parts, but if you look in this cage right here, if you're a fan of Rogue One, you may recognize this droid right here. It's K2SO, which, you know, things don't go great for the characters in that movie, but it's nice he lives here. Working our way up to Doc Ondar's, but look on top of Docking Bay 7, which is the quick service restaurant here. You're gonna see that a ship is delivering a couple of crates, and they have the numbers 77, 80, and 83 on them. Those are the release years of the original Star Wars trilogy, 1977, 1980, and 1983. And if you go into the restaurant, you're going to see that 1981 being lowered into the dining room. Now here we've come upon a most suspicious shop, Doc Ondar's Den of Antiquities. And if you're a Star Wars fan, I highly recommend coming in here, even if you don't intend to purchase anything. That guy looks familiar. But we're met with an Easter egg as soon as we enter. This mural is the same that you can see in Revenge of the Sith in Chancellor Palpatine's office. So that's a good vibe. Unfortunately, it looks like Doc is busy right now, but I recommend coming in here because Doc is very fascinating, intimidating to look at. And if you look around the shop, you're going to notice tons of different things, including taxidermied heads of some of your favorite Star Wars creatures, like a Tauntaun or a Bantha. Oh man, is that where blue milk comes from? I'm not sure I want to drink that anymore. You're going to see golden busts of beloved characters such as Yoda and everyone's favorite Star Wars character, Jar Jar Binks. You're also going to see the Abominable Snowman. What are you doing? You're in the claymation movies. You shouldn't be here. Or perhaps even a little armor from Joel Miller, aka Daddy Pedro, aka The Mandalorian. Also, you know that gross sandworm that the other gross worm tries to feed Princess Cinnamon to when she's wearing her sexy bikini and like Indiana Jones tries to throw them all in there? That's what it looks like. It's a baby one in here, but if you wanted to know what it looked like from the bottom parts, there it is. Beat bopping through the Black Spire Outpost, which is the marketplace, you gotta pass through Ronto Roasters, home of the delicious Ronto wrap, and you've got the Ronto actually being cooked by a pod racing engine from the Star Wars Episode 1, which is kind of fun. Also, if you go into Toydarian Toy Makers here, where they sell a variety of different Star Wars toys, like things you might find if you existed in Star Wars, basically. They sell Sabacc, they sell Darajik, but make sure to come in here and look up, because they have a toy recreation of a battle between the Millennium Falcon and an Imperial ship. And you're gonna see TIE fighters and the Falcon. And then over here, you've got Obi-Wan. Is he fighting? Yeah, Darth Vader. I was gonna say, is he fighting Kylo Ren? Because even I know that doesn't make sense. But yeah, there you go. I really like these like little plushes of Star Wars characters. I bought myself the Stormtrooper after covering the Galaxy's Edge opening. I don't know, I just think they're really cute. Like, how cute is that little Princess Leia? How cute is the Chewie? Like, even Kylo Ren was cute. These are a fun, unique souvenir, I feel like. On the far side of the marketplace, you've got a water bottle refill station here, as well as some water fountains. And if you could translate that from Arabic, it would tell you not to drink the water because there are creatures inside. And if you look inside the water container right there, you can actually see him a little bit. There's an eyeball. Feels like he's a little sleepy today, but occasionally he'll pop out his eyeball and look at you, and it's a Dianoga, like you see in the trash compactor in A New Hope. Like, a lot of stuff goes poorly in the trash compactor. Over here near Rise of the Resistance, you're in the Resistance camps. So you're gonna see A-Wings and X-Wings as flown by some of your favorite characters. And if you look up at these little merchandise kiosks right here, you're gonna see other equipment worn by them, such as helmets, you're gonna see crates, you're gonna see machinery. But I think my favorite thing to look for is a couple of times you're gonna see the binoculars. You first see these in A New Hope, I believe, but they're these like multifunctional binoculars, and I just love that these kind of things are just nestled amongst all the goodies here. Also, I'm just noticing this weaponry up here, and I didn't see anything on Google, but I'm also not a diehard Star Wars fan, and I feel like it could represent something. Like, I feel like this gun in the holster, is that Han? Perhaps like a Greedo shot first thing. I feel like these missiles might be something, or perhaps these potentially grenades. I don't know. There's a big gun back there too. So first to admit, not a Star Wars expert. So if you are, let me know what those things are if they're of any significance. Like, I'm really good at Harry Potter. I'm a diehard Harry Potter fan. So I can just look up at the shelves in Wizarding World and be like, oh, I know what that is. But I have to do a lot of research for Star Wars and a lot of fact checking online or asking Alan and Max and things. So if you see something or you know a cool Star Wars Easter egg, please drop it in the comments. I'll look for it next time because I just love all the detail in here. I just am like not as familiar with the lore to be able to find things and automatically know what it is, you know? We all have our weak spots. All right, friends, we have made it into our next land, Waka Waka. We are at Grand Avenue, which most importantly is home of the Muppets. And before we point out a few things right here at the front of the Muppet Plaza part of Grand Avenue, we're gonna go into Pizza Rizzo because it closes early, so we gotta scoot in there. First things first, I pointed this one out before, but I just think it's hilarious. If you watch this sign, particularly at night, it says Pizza Rizzo, the city's top rated pizza, but some of the lights aren't quite working, and so at night you will see that it says it's rat pizza, which is amazing. Also, did you know there was supposed to be a quick service restaurant where they were gonna have animatronic rats, and it was run by Gonzo and Rizzo, and animatronic rats were gonna deliver the pizza to you after they were cooked by the chickens? Yeah, I'm also furious that doesn't exist. All right, first things we have to point out at Pizza Rizzo are on the outside, actually. For starters, you're gonna have the sign right here that says the famous original Pizza Rizzo, the best pizza on the planet, but Pizza Planet is particularly prominent, and you may be able to guess this, but this used to be home to Pizza Planet, a quick service restaurant themed to the restaurant in Toy Story called Pizza Planet. So that's kind of a reference and an homage to what was here before. Additionally, I love the sign up here for Rizzo's Deluxe Supreme Banquet Hall. It's a real classy joint. If only we could go in there. Don't worry, we can. Now welcome into Pizza Rizzo, where they sell tragically puffy pizza. And I say tragically because I think the Muppets deserve so much more. I grew up watching the Muppets. I'd watch the Muppet Show with my mom every weekend, and I love the Muppets so much. Muppet Treasure Island was one of my favorite movies growing up, and I just feel like they deserve better than puffy pizza. But nonetheless, they have a ton of cute Easter eggs in here, starting with, if you come over to this shelf right here, you are gonna see an old-timey can for Wilkins coffee. Also, you're gonna see cheese on a scale, which I respect, but the coffee's what's important here. That is a nod to the old black and white Wilkins coffee commercials that Jim Henson did, starring an early version, an early iteration of the one and only Kermit the Frog. So I love that we're celebrating Jim Henson in here. I feel like this is one of those restaurants you just need to look at everything because it's all hilarious because it's the Muppets. Like, they have all this merchandise for sale, which is not actually for sale, and I would pay. I think multiple of us would pay good money to get some Pizza Rizzo merchandise. Look at that hat up there. Look at these cups. I would buy those. You got the Employee of the Month placard. You got the Pizza Eating Hall of Fame. Sweetums won last year. Good for Sweetums. This is hilarious, where in a frame you would often find the first dollar a business has made, and in fact it has a placard that says our first dollar. There's a post-it note that says, Rizzo, down to my last money, so I took your first monies, I owe you Pepe, the king prawn. I like this picture of Rizzo in Italy as if to suggest anything from this restaurant is authentically Italian. Now remember that classy joint we wanted to check out? Here it is. There's a wedding reception happening right now in Pizza Rizzo. What are the odds? And they got good jams rolling. But I do think it's hilarious that there's literally like a banquet style situation set up. Even the chairs are different in here because we're at a fancy, classy joint. Additionally, if you look at this bulletin board on the second floor, you're going to see advertisements for different businesses run by your favorite Muppets. So like Fozzie's Funny Business, the Swedish Swingin' Cakes, Fish Juggler. You've got a Zerat Survey, Tossing Penguins Tuxedo Rental. So all kinds of funny little nods to different Muppet characters here. And if you wanted to know whose wedding is happening inside Rizzo's Deluxe Supreme Banquet Hall, somebody got married. Gil and Lil, daughter of Will and Jill, son of Phil and Bill, featuring DJ Electric Mayhem, playing the greatest wedding hits of all time. BYOB and P. I assume that's bringing your own beverages and pizza. Man, I wish DJ Electric Mayhem had played my wedding. Back on the first floor, and a cast member pointed this map out to me. It's a map of Los Angeles, and if you look at the orange lines, that's the delivery area, that whole kind of perimeter there. But then if you look at the green lines, that's the sewer delivery route because they're rats, so they're delivering by the sewer. Also upstairs, there's lots of nods to New York, which, you know, New York is famous for pizza. But I also think it's probably a nod to the fact that this sits on the former streets of America, which were home to like sets and flats of New York and San Francisco. And so I feel like the New York is kind of a nod to that. And of course, the Muppet fun doesn't stop at Pizza Rizzo. There's lots of Muppet shenanigans to be had at Muppet Vision 3D. There's also one of my favorite gags, possibly in any theme park. So when you enter Muppet Vision 3D, you've got the security right here. Somehow Animal is back there. That doesn't feel very safe. You've got wanted signs for Fozzie and Miss Piggy. Wanted Miss Piggy by absolutely everyone. A queen, an icon. I love her so much. But probably most importantly, you've got the sign right here that says back in 5 minutes, key under the mat. You know you want to check. There it is. As promised. I feel like signs are always a good thing to look at if you want to find Easter eggs and little details, but the Muppets, more than anyone else, are great at the humor. Like here you've got the Muppet Vision 3D World Headquarters Directory. The rest of the directory. Institute of Heckling and Browbeating, Statler and Waldorf, Curmudgeons in Chief, Muppet Kitchens and Pyrotechnic Restart, Swedish Chef and the Tippy Top Cookie Guy. Like if you read everything here, it fits perfectly within the Muppet universe, but it's so funny. Like alphabet soup, and it's just a bunch of alphabets. Soup of the day, split pea, and it's more expensive for no soup because like you split it. It's chef's kiss. I also have always loved this ever since I was a kid, where it says you must be shorter than this to enter. Clearly someone didn't listen. And then I've pointed out some details in Muppet Vision 3D before, but I just love the key under the mat. Had to point that out again. Probably the best one in the Muppet Vision 3D pre-show is there's a net full of Jell-O, which is a joke for Annette Funicello, the most famous person from the original Mickey Mouse Club. A net full of Jell-O, Annette Funicello. Classic comedy. Welcome, friends, to Echo Lake, and if the dinosaur paw prints on the ground didn't give it away, we're going to talk about our girl Gertie for a second. Perhaps you have visited Gertie's Ice Cream of Extinction in the past, where you can get delicious soft-serve treats as well as classic Mickey bars. But did you know Gertie herself is an icon, and not just for delicious treats? Gertie herself is a tribute to a cartoon from 1914 called Gertie the Dinosaur by Winsor McCay. She is one of the first well-known cartoon characters, and according to my research, the first time a dinosaur was ever animated. And what was fun about Winsor McCay was he had a whole show with Gertie where he would, quote unquote, interact with Gertie on the screen. He would stand on stage and like motion to her, and then the animation would do things. And this was an inspiration to Walt Disney. So Gertie herself, older than Mickey Mouse, and we love her. We especially love her in the holiday season when she has a seasonal little outfit on. Now, as we stroll around Echo Lake, I want to point out one of my favorite things, and that's the fact that this park used to be a giant hidden Mickey, and Echo Lake was one of the ears. If you look at these early pictures of MGM Studios from a bird's eye view, you can see it. The different planters make up different parts of Mickey's face. And then you've got Echo Lake and then kind of like, I don't know, a parking lot or just another kind of area making up the other ear. This was unfortunately ruined in 1994 when they opened up Sunset Boulevard and Tower of Terror. I think we can all say it's worth ruining the hidden Mickey, but it is pretty cool that it was designed that way. And if you look right here, you've got Hollywood and Vine, which is the only character dining restaurant in this park. In the morning, you're gonna have Disney Junior characters, but in the afternoon and evening, you're gonna have Mickey, Minnie, Goofy, and Pluto typically in cute seasonal outfits. But the reason I'm pointing it out are two cool Easter eggs on the windows up here. The first one you can see right next to the Hollywood and Vine sign, you've got an advertisement for Eddie Valiant's private investigation. And if you're a fan of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, you'll know that's the name of the detective. And if you needed more proof of that, then you've got the silhouette of Roger, who's jumped right out the window. Classic Roger. Continue on to the left, you're going to see another window advertising the Flower Street Pictures with Bob Weiss as your studio head. Flower Street Pictures is a nod to Flower Street, which is where Imagineering has its headquarters, and Bob Weiss, former president of Walt Disney Imagineering. I found teenage ducks. They got really close to me, but obviously I'm not going to touch them. But look how cute they are. They're not very old. They're like two gals having a nice day. Have a good day, ladies. Stay safe. Don't talk to boys you don't know. Now, if you love that Roger Rabbit Easter egg and you're like, give me more Roger, I got great news for you, because on top of Peavy's Polar Pipeline, you've got a billboard for Maroon Studios featuring Baby Herman, Roger Rabbit, and Jessica Rabbit. Anyone else remember the Baby Herbert cartoon from, I think it was in front of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids or Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves? I remember watching it as a kid. Anyway, on the initial plans for this park, there was going to be a Roger Rabbit themed land, and I don't want to speak for anyone but myself. I am thrilled that did not happen. Not my favorite IP, though I would love to meet Roger Rabbit and more specifically Jessica Rabbit in the parks. But I do want to draw attention to Peavy's Polar Pipeline. This is where you can grab like frozen beverages, like frozen Cokes and slushies and things. You can add booze to them if you're an adult, if you want to spice it up a little bit. But here we have Holly Vermont Realty between Hollywood and Beverly Hills. And I love this one because if you look above it, it's got a sign that says office space for rent. That is a nod to the fact that the original space that Walt and Roy, the Disney brothers, when they first established the Disney Brothers Studio in 1923, over 100 years ago, it was in the rear small office of the Holly Vermont Realty at 4451 Kingswell Avenue in Los Angeles. And I just love that nod. Also here at Peavy's, kind of off to the left-hand side, if you're fans of the 1991 live-action film The Rocketeer, you're actually going to see some of his armor right here. Kind of a long-lost film, but fun that there's a little nod here. Last thing I want to point out on this little strip right here is that the cosmetic dentistry place right here, if you read the directory, it's kind of funny because you got See Howie Pullum, Ruth Canal, and Les Payne, DDS. Right across the way here, you've got Dockside Diner, formerly called Min and Bill's Dockside Diner after some Hollywood characters. Also formerly home to one of my favorite Disney eats that no longer exists. It was a chicken Caesar salad sandwich. It was basically a delicious chicken Caesar salad shoved into a hot loaf of bread. I think about it pretty much weekly, and I'm very sad that it's gone. But Min and Bill's Dockside Diner has a couple cool Easter eggs to look for. Starting with, if you look at the nautical flags up here, they actually spell out Dockside Diner. Now, there are numbers in between each of those letters if you translate them, but according to the nautical website that I looked at, the numbers can either be the numbers or there can be a space. Numbers didn't mean anything to me, so I'm choosing to translate it as Dockside Diner written in nautical flags. Also, a ManFam member sent me that and asked me if I could figure out what the flags meant. So I thank you for sending me that on Instagram. And if you have any cool things you want to try and figure out, let's work together, friends. Put it on Discord, send it to us on Instagram. Let's see if we can figure out Easter eggs together. But another cool Easter egg right here, if you take a look at these crates right outside Dockside Diner, you may recognize some of the names on them. Now, there used to be more. Y'all, I am so upset right now. I think this very good Easter egg, yes, I agree. I think this very good Easter egg might be gone. Oh my gosh, I think it's gone. I am distraught. We are all finding this out together right now. Previously on the crates, particularly the ones outside Dockside Diner right there, they were addressed to famous characters from movies. So you had like a crate going to Rick Blaine and Casablanca. And I had noticed that like fewer and fewer of them existed because it used to be like several movie references, and then it was like just the Casablanca one. but now there's none of them. Rip the crates. But that used to be cool. If you see that it's come back after you see this, let me know. Back almost where we began. Gonna take Hollywood Boulevard and go down Sunset to wrap up this little Easter egg tour. And the first one I want to point out is right here on the street, right at the corner of Sunset and Hollywood. It says Mortimer & Co. Contractors 1928. Now that's actually a nod to the most famous mouse with an M name, though it's not Mortimer. Mortimer & Co. 1928 is a nod to Mickey Mouse. Mickey's birthday, November 18th, 1928. That's when he first appeared in Steamboat Willie, and the world fell in love with that cute little mouse. But did you know his original name was actually Mortimer? When Walt Disney first dreamed up Mickey on the train going from New York to California after he lost his original cartoon success, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, and many of his animators, he dreamt up a little mouse. It popped into his brain, he drew it on canvas, and he knew it would be his next smash success, but he named the little mouse Mortimer. He told his wife Lily this, and she said that sounded a little stuffy, and that this mouse was going to be like a mouse of the people, the everyday mouse, and she suggested Mickey instead. Of course, Lillian was right, and we all know him today as Mickey Mouse. But Mortimer was his original name, which is what that's a nod to. Additionally, another nod to Mickey right here. If you look across the street, you've got the Trolley Car Cafe right there. That's the Starbucks in this park. You'll see the establishing date right there, also 1928. Now, when you turn down Sunset, you're gonna notice a change in music. It's gonna be some 1940s kind of jazzy, poppy hits. It's gonna be delightful, especially if you're an Avengers fan. And while that music does make sense, considering the theme of the park, just again, that golden era of Hollywood, like the 40s, 50s, 60s, this land in particular is themed to World War II era, which is why you're hearing 40s music. And it opened up in 1994, being the biggest expansion of the park after it opened in 1989. And if you want to see a little nod to that opening year, you can turn right here. Right in between the Pandora store and Legends of Hollywood, where you can find kind of your more upscale merchandise like Pandora, Alex and Ani, Dooney and Burke. You've got the street address right here, 94, as a nod to the opening of the land, again, 1994. Across the street over Real Vogue, which is another merchandise shop, you've got a couple fictional businesses up here, including Muscle Beach Bodyguard Service, a nod to the famous Muscle Beach in Venice Beach. But I think my favorite of these is the International Brotherhood of Second Assistant Directors. We're standing right behind you. That's kind of a joke because in Hollywood for a time, second assistant directors were often like family members of the directors, and their main job was to like get whatever the director needed, like coffee or something like that. So they're ready. They're standing right behind you, director. Whatever you need, they got it. Now, just like Hollywood Boulevard, you're gonna see different architecture styles of California here on Sunset, but probably the most important of those buildings is right here on the end. It's the store Once Upon a Time, another apparel merchandise shop, but it is themed to the Carthay Circle Theater, and this theater is very important in Disney history because this is where the first full-length animated feature film of all time debuted, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, in 1937. Did you know that people said Walt Disney would fail because of this? They called it one of Walt's follies, and it is still in the top 10 highest grossing films of all time if you account for inflation. So just goes to show you, don't listen to people. Follow your hearts and dreams, and you never know what could happen. I also love this advertisement on the bench here for the Tip Top Club at the Hollywood Tower Hotel. I feel like a lot of people may have noticed the billboard kind of a little bit further down Sunset advertising for the hotel itself, and of course that hotel is Tower of Terror, a star in her own right, a beacon of the glitz and glamour until, you know, what happened in 1939. But the Tip Top Club is where your rich and elite are supposed to be headed, and you can see advertisements for the Tip Top Club when you go in Tower of Terror. So I kind of love that connection to the story all the way down the street. More Tower of Terror details in that Secrets video. We're not going to get into those today, but there's tons, especially if you're a Twilight Zone fan. Couple more things to point out on Sunset though, specifically this little trolley car right here, supposed to be reminiscent of a cable car, is number 694. That's another nod to the opening date of this land, which was June in 1994. And right next door, you've got Sunset Ranch Market, which is a quick service area with a variety of different quick service locations, including Fairfax Fair, Catalina Eddie's, Rosie's All-American Cafe, the fruit stand. But this is actually all themed to a real location called the Fairfax Farmers Market, which originally opened in LA in 1934. It was historic at the time. It was groundbreaking at the time for bringing in local vendors and selling all their different produce in one place. And so now you can grab all the different things. And again, it was called the Fairfax Market. It was on Fairfax Avenue, which is why one of the restaurants is called Fairfax Fair. But one of these restaurants, I bet you can guess which one, is really in keeping with that World War II theme. Yes, obviously it's Rosie's All-American Cafe, named after Rosie the Riveters, which were what women were called when the men were called to battle, and the women stepped up and made sure that the factories kept running. And you're going to see a lot of Americana and a lot of propaganda around here. Stay true to the red, white, and blue. Keep them flying. V for victory. You're going to see different wartime posters and things all going in with that theme. You're also going to see things on like the mailboxes and such throughout the land. But perhaps my favorite tie-in to this World War II theme is the Victory Garden right here in the Sunset Ranch Market, right on the side of Catalina Eddie's. You can see it says, "Victory with Vegetables, Rosie's Victory Gardens." And Victory Gardens were a very real thing in World War II. It was something that was encouraged by the government while there was a food shortage, while they had to send food over to the military, while, trade and things aren't happening according to plan. So they encouraged the citizens to plant their own victory gardens and grow some of their own food. And according to the USDA, there were more than 20 million victory gardens in 1943, and they produced more than 10 billion pounds of food. And in 1944, these gardens provided around 40% of the U.S. vegetable supply. And, I'm not trying to start anything here, but I think it's really nice to think about the whole country coming together as one unit and not being divided and working towards a common cause. And our last detail from this little adventure today, want to draw your attention to the street sign right here outside of the Hollywood Tower Hotel. It sits on the corner of Sunset Boulevard and Gower Street. And just like Sunset and Hollywood, Gower Street is a very real, very famous real street in Los Angeles. And many movie studios are located on Gower Street, including on the corner of Sunset and Gower, the former home of Columbia Pictures. Also, Gower Street is where the beginning of the Hollywood Walk of Fame is. So I just love that basically everything in this park, specifically these two lands, Sunset and Hollywood, is nods to real old Hollywood. And if you take the time, you can find like hundreds and hundreds of Easter eggs. Well, friends, that is a wrap on today's adventure here in Hollywood Studios. I hope you had following along. I truly love doing these secrets videos because I really believe that the level of detail, the level of immersion is what makes these parks so special. And I love pointing out these little hidden gems that people don't always notice. So let me know if you had fun. Let me know your favorite secret detail in the comments. Check out our other secrets videos. Which other ones do you want to see as well? Let us know all that down below. And until next time, friends, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, follow us on social media, come hang out with the Man Fam in Discord. And until next time, friends, I'm Molly, and it's been so magical. Good night.